This episode of the Busted Wide Open podcast is brought to you by Blueberry. Blueberry offers the best media hosting, accurate listening stats, and their all-new PowerPress Deluxe sites, a no-setup WordPress website for your podcast with all the necessary links to share your show with the world built right in. If you currently produce a podcast and are looking for a better media host or looking to start a new one from scratch, head over to orbitaljigsaw.com/BWO and sign up for the best media hosting and a PowerPress Deluxe site to get your first month absolutely free. That's orbitaljigsaw.com/BWO, or just use the promo code BWO at checkout for your first month free. And with that said, enjoy the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the only two-time PWG Battle of Los Angeles champion, King Ricochet, and you are listening to Busted Wide Open Podcast.
You're listening to the Busted Wide Open Podcast, dropping the elbow on the hottest topics in sports entertainment and the world of professional wrestling. With your hosts, Nick Howell and Sir Ian Dangerous. Coming to you from the Orbital Jigsaw Network Arena in sunny Southern California. Welcome back to the Busted Wide Open Podcast, but if this is your first time joining the show, I'd like to welcome you to episode number 170. My name is Nick Howell.
And for the first time ever in the history of the show, I am less hungover than Nick Howell. I am Sir Ian Dangerous, and welcome to Busted Wide Open, where today we're talking about Raw, which has happened last night, as well as we got a little bit about NWA Power. And we're going home to Crown Jewel, Nick, which is happening this Thursday on Halloween. It's not trick or treat, it's just a trick. That's right, Crown Jewel's coming up, so we get to talk about that. But before we get into the show today, Nick, how are you doing out there in Vegas? Are you surviving?
Yeah, we're on like day 3, and it's starting to set in where you get the rough throat and sandpaper and all kinds of stuff, and I'm sure you guys can hear a little bit of that coming through. But
no,
yeah,
not at all. It's okay, man. You sound great.
It sounds good, brother.
Yeah.
I could go do some really serious movie trailers right now. No, Vegas is great. The NetApp show's great. Everything's going fine. I haven't had any more knocks on the door by security. So far, so good. We'll see how this show goes. But, guys, if you want to come hang out with us, the hub of our operation is Facebook. You can search for Busted Wide Open on Facebook. Like our page. Send us a join request to get into the discussion group. We have lots of chats going on there. But also, click that link to join our Discord server, where you can join the community for live chats for all of the pay-per-views, as well as all of the shows week to week throughout every single week. You can find that pinned across all of our social media, or if you're watching on YouTube, down in the description below. Speaking of which, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/bustedwideopen. Is where we go live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern and every Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern, except for this week because I'm in Vegas getting my throat destroyed by talking all the time, including this podcast.
Here you are, yeah.
Yeah. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at BWO Podcast, and a big shout out to all of our patrons at patreon.com/BWO. Be sure to sign up for one of those reward tiers and get the ability to ask listener questions for our new patron mailbag series that debuts every Saturday, as well as access to other perks like bonus episodes, sweet swag, all kinds of good stuff over at patreon.com/BWO.
Sure, thank you for giving all of that information out. I know it's probably a little bit hard today. You sound like you're a little bit under the weather, like you're being a little quiet there, which is probably good because I don't want you getting yelled at and kicked out of your hotel room,
right?
Like happened last time. But tell you what, Nick, we got a lot to talk about today, and nothing bigger than our segment that we like to call The Big News.
Well, I want to preface this part by saying we actually had a debate about whether to even bring it up. Because much like we've said on this show many times, we don't really discuss politics, and that can sometimes transcend into issues of race, equality, etc. But this week, Jordan Myles, a recent winner of the Breakout Tournament, and had an opportunity to challenge Adam Cole for the NXT Championship, started calling out WWE and even Vince McMahon and Triple H himself on issues of racism over a piece of merchandise.
Yeah, this is going to be tough to talk about, but I do feel that we do have to talk about it because we are a podcast. We report the news, and this is a very big story, and it's very complicated. But it is going to be difficult for us to really comment on as two middle-aged white guys. We can only really weigh in on this so much. But I do want to just talk about what has happened, go over all of the like play-by-play. And really kind of lay it out because this has gotten more complicated as it's gone on. I'm actually really kind of relieved that we didn't have a show the day this broke because it has evolved over the last couple of days. So this all began on the 26th when Jordan Myles tweeted out a picture of a T-shirt that apparently had been designed for him. And he said they'll regret making this hashtag for the culture. And the shirt itself was a black shirt, and on it was what looked like a smiling mouth where the teeth were letters that spelled his name. And it was, the red background, and then like the white teeth were the letters of his name. And I think that the idea was that this was in reference to the fact that they love to talk about his smile. He's been one of his major character points they've been pushing in NXT was this smile that he has. He's a very, got this very infectious, happy smile. And so I think that was the theory behind it. Unfortunately, as soon as you see the damn thing, it really does jump out as being like very, very, very racist. It's with the black shirt and the big white smile and the red background. If you follow the tweet thread, they even posted some like, I guess you would call it like a little black Sambo kind of imagery that this is very much calls back to. So I can see where the issue lies, and so he was not happy about this. On the 27th, he repeated the complaint. This is where he called out Triple H and Vince. He said, "I will keep posting this till my voice is heard. I'm not sorry for anything I say or do. Representation is important. If this is Vince McMahon and Triple H's vision of me, then this is a slap in the face to every African-American performer, fan, and supporter. They will learn to regret after this. I promise you." Now, the shirt itself was not up to be purchased, and it was pointed out to him by David Bixenspan. And he replied by saying, "I've used this shirt as fuel. I knew the shirt existed, and my soul hasn't been able to rest properly since I've laid eyes on it. My voice will be heard, my true opinion will be heard, and my people will have their moment. Nothing poor about my soul. This shirt is what's wrong with America and the wrestling industry. Doesn't matter if the shirt was replaced. The fact that they even made the first one overshadows anything till we get what we deserve." And he had people come to to back him up. Cedric Alexander tweeted support. Leo Rush tweeted support. Big Swole tweeted support. There was a movement starting where if you supported him, you would turn your profile picture on Twitter black and white. David Starr tweeted support at this point. And then on the 28th, some more information came out. WWE released a statement saying Albert Hardy Jr., a.k.a. Jordan Myles, approved this T-shirt for sale. As always, we work collaboratively with all of our performers to develop logos and merchandise designs and get their input and approval before proceeding. This was the same process with Albert, and we responded swiftly once he later requested that the logo/T-shirt be redesigned. No T-shirts were sold. He responded to that by saying, When I originally saw the design, I was uncomfortable. Rather than addressing the issue, I decided to counteroffer with another. Baker Landon, who I don't know of and I haven't heard of before, but I'm assuming has something to do with designing of merchandise in NXT.
Okay. Sure.
But this is where he was brought up in that context. He said, Baker Landon lied to my face. He said, Triple H wanted this design, so my hands were tied. I spoke with Triple H in person, and his impression was, I approved. And then he tweets out an email from Baker Landon, and he had the screen cap of this email itself from Baker Landon, and I have that in my notes. It's just taking a second to come up. But basically, there's a lot of these tweets that have been taken down, and that one actually, the link I had to it is gone. But essentially, it said to the effect of, we had a meeting. Triple H wanted it to be teethier. Road Dogg thought it should be on gray. But the idea was that, the higher ups liked it and thought it should go through. So that was the issue there. He then went on. This is where he started to get even more strident. He says the whole WWE system is fraud. This is all caps. They created the system where you can't trust anyone, you grow cold, and you grow apart from what you love the most. The fact that Hulk Hogan is still employed after giving the locker room an apology for being caught says enough. Then things got even wilder.
Oh boy!
He tweeted. Some of these things are now taken down. This next thing was taken down. It's a video he put up where he said WWE doesn't care about black people and threw up the middle finger. That's gone. He also deleted a tweet where he then went after. I'm going to try and find the actual tweet, but it was FROH2. He actually said the full word, but I'm trying to not do that ever since my rant after Hell in a Cell.
Okay. You spent your quota for the year after
I spent the rest of my year's F-bombs on that one episode. It says FROH2. They only allowed one African American to be the top guy, while guys like Cedric Alexander, TD, Malcolm Veli, which is Stokely Hathaway, and myself had to chase this visible carrot a stick. This is his wording, not mine. Name another African American who was reached great heights there other than this, this is his language again, other than this Uncle Tom, referring to Jay Lethal. He posted a picture of Jay Lethal. So he called Jay Lethal an Uncle Tom. Other tweets went out where he says, I only agreed to the shirt because it was shown to me on a white tee. Once placed in a black tee, you can clearly see the racist intentions. A further tweet where he said, Tupac once said, I'm not saying I'm going to change the world, but I guarantee that I will spark the brain that will change that world. I'm that brain, hashtag for the culture. He also called Kofi Kingston Martin Luther Kingston. And when people challenged him, he said that his end game is to have better representation and to be heard. So I'm going to stop there because there's a lot to unpack there before we get to chapter 3 or 4 at this point in all of this. There's more. But I want to stop there and address everything that's happened so far.
I've been a little unplugged for the last day or two.
Yes, I understand. That's why I'm giving you so much here. Now, anyone who hasn't...
And I appreciate that. So if I can reflect on some of the things you've already covered there.
Yes.
There's a word that I like to use, and it's tact. T-A-C-T, tact. There's a way to do things. There's a way not to do things. Now, right. I don't want to assume that he hasn't already done this. But the first thing you do when you have a problem with your employer is you schedule a meeting and you sit down and you talk with them and say, I have a problem with this. Or can we do something about it? And I wonder if the nature of society today, based on certain, I don't know, leadership, has led us to a point where we think the only way we can get something done is to be controversial and tweet about it. And I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm not saying that what he's upset about is wrong. I'm a little bothered by the tact of it, the way that it's been handled. And if it's one of those situations where I find out that he has already done that stuff and nothing was done about it, then more power to him.
Yeah.
But look, dude, at a certain point, I hear you, but you've kind of just cratered your career. So, and I want to support it, but at the same time, you've also just shown that nobody's going to want to work with you because of the way you handle stuff publicly.
Well, and the comeback to that, the comeback to that, at least for the first part of this, before things started to, in my opinion, go a little bit off the rails. My thought on this was, you can't really make a lot of change being polite, and I understand in certain circumstances. I understand wanting to blow things up like this. I know what you're saying. I think there could be an argument made both ways. The thing is that at a certain point, I think your argument becomes more legitimate because things started to degrade even in how he was handling this online. Again, the heart in the right place, but the way he's going about it seemed to, at a certain point, as I said, go a little bit off the rails. That being said, he's 100% right about the T-shirt and how the lack of representation in the WWE structure created an environment where this could get through who knows how many eyes, and nobody looked at this and went, there's no way we can put that out or even suggest it, right? Even the fact that it was
agree with
the
that.
fact that it was suggested in the first place is the problem, right? He's 100% right about that. The fact that this shirt got anywhere near being vetted is the problem, and it's something where he's 100% right when he's talking about representation. If you look at the power structure in WWE, how many people working higher up in WWE are not older white guys? They're all older white guys, right? And so, like, there are people, I saw tons of tweets go out, this blew up Twitter, the wrestling Twitter. And a lot of people were writing in and saying, like, I don't see it. What am I supposed to see here? And some of it seemed innocent. Some of it obviously not, because it's Twitter and it's a cesspool. But some people were writing and saying, I genuinely don't see the problem with the shirt, which is part of the problem. You need eyes in there that will see it, and the people that would be sensitive to it, that it would offend, which it should be everybody, but not everyone is aware of it, because that's not you're not the cultural awareness you grew up in.
Right.
There needed to be someone there to go, guys, do you not see what's wrong with this shirt? And the fact that there wasn't is a major issue. And let's be clear. WWE has a long, sordid history of really racist undertones. Like, we should not expect WWE to have taken the higher ground on this. In no way, Nick, and I don't know if you were surprised that WWE allowed this shirt to get as far as it did. I'm in no way surprised by this.
No, I'm not either. Based on what you just said a second ago about the fact that the line of approvers is mostly, you heard people like Triple H in the email, Triple H, Road Dogg.
Vince,
yeah. There is no, you're completely right. There's, I think a lot of us think that some of the African-American superstars that in WWE maybe have a level of consultative impression on some some of them.
Who are you talking about? The Latinos? Latino superstars?
No, African American superstars.
Okay, because I was going to say Latino superstars they're some of the ones that have been in the most racist angles of the last 20 years. Remember Eddie Guerrero's entrance music? His entrance music said, "You can't trust me because I'm Latin." Like, you know what I mean? The Mexicools, they came out on lawnmowers. Like, Jesus Christ, the stuff they're doing right now with Lucha House Party, like it's just across the board. Yeah. Some of this stuff.
But I'm saying I think that there's like Titus O'Neil. I would think Big E and Xavier and Kofi. There would be some level of, hey, is this okay? Or are we doing the right thing here? Well, I would want to involve them somehow. That's what I would want to do. I would want to include someone like you said that would have the.
So you're saying as WWE, the corporation, would want to bring in someone like that as a consultant, or at least like have them higher up in the company.
Sure.
Okay.
As a barometer, as a litmus,
as a representation.
Sure.
Yeah.
But at a minimum, at the end of the day, I stick by what I said. It's just there's a way to handle things, dude.
Well, and this is the thing, is that you're not wrong, because that was where the people, even ones that were supporting him, started to be like, hey, man, take it down a notch. Booker T.
When you start calling people names and making derogatory comments to the people that you would think would support you and have spoken out in support of you, that's where I start going, you kind of just delegitimized your position a little bit.
I think him calling out Jay Lethal was the turning point where a lot of people that were absolutely 100% behind him, and with good reason, that's where everyone kind of went, whoa, dude, you're going a little bit too far. Booker T said, social media and your business, they don't go together. Leave my name out of this crap. I'm standing way back in this one because this could have been handled a whole lot different than it's being handled. This is not a Colin Kaepernick moment. Cedric Alexander, who started off supporting him, then tweeted out, the truth means nothing if it's buried in hate. And Titus O'Neil, who you just brought up, said, I am in 100% agreement that the shirt is very distasteful. That being said, bringing others into this to vent your frustrations or issues that have nothing to do with WWE or the shirt is also very distasteful. If it's hashtag for the culture, don't attack those in it.
Yep.
I think that was
my point entirely.
Yeah, that's exactly. I think that at a certain point, the message got lost in the delivery and in the emotion that was happening here. And so that's why, like, I wanted to talk about this on this show, because it's such a delicate, like, very charged situation. And again, we're not really the guys that should be weighing in our opinion on it. It's not our place. But at the same time, this is something that happened, and to someone like myself who is somewhat exterior to this issue, I had a perception that Jordan Myles went overboard at a certain point with trying to have justice for something that was genuinely in distasteful, as Titus put it, injustice. And I fully agree that with Myles, that they need that representation. WWE needs to check itself. It's a $1 billion company, for God's sake. You know what I mean? And they want to go out there and say, look how good we are at representation, and look at our women's division and all the rest of this, while there's still this undercurrent of just being wildly insensitive and racist, and the racist angles that they still put out there. That still happen to this day. Like Nick, you and I talk about the Street Profits sometimes being really cringy and like on the verge of being a little minstrel showy, and even Xavier Woods, you brought up New Day, where he said when they first got the gimmick for New Day, they were like, oh, Vince found a new racist one for us,
Yep. They made them gospel preachers or whatever it was,
like,
right?
Oh my God. Like somewhere they've got to have someone step in. One tweet I saw, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't actually have it in front of me here, but one tweet I saw that I really kind of like was nodding my head a lot at was someone tweeted out, until WWE can have a champ who's just an African American champ who's just a champ because he's just a badass guy and not because he's dancing around, shucking and jiving and happy to be here, or not a gimmick, then we really can't say that they have representation. Like, as great as Kofi was, and they did try to downplay some of his, New Day antics when he was champ, but then they threw that all away when they had him beaten in 6 seconds by, Brock Lesnar, who frankly looks like Hitler's wet dream. So it's, I mean, talk about an Ubermensch. But no, in all seriousness, like that was really to have all of those things happen one after the other was just a bad series of events.
And then a week later, completely forgetting it, writing it off of TV, and he's back to throwing pancakes.
He's back to throwing
around.
pancakes. Exactly.
No legitimacy to it. It's just let's hit the reset button.
Yeah. So there's definitely something to be really closely looked at. People have been questioning the timing of these tweets from Myles, because this shirt was originally, this all happened in like late September. He hasn't tweeted about it till now. We were wondering this week why he hadn't been on TV. So one wonders what kind of discussions or like what had been going on backstage, like who he'd been talking to, like if this was a process or if this is something that was like built up somehow.
Yeah,
and he finally just exploded. One wonders what happened.
Like we said previously, he's the winner of the tournament. He had the championship opportunity, but all we've seen since the tournament is Cameron Grimes and Isaiah Scott.
Well, and people who were wondering about him, saying, oh, he went after Jay Lethal because they had beef back in, I guess, 2014 when they were both in Ring of Honor. And Myles, ACH at the time, as he was called, missed a flight to a pay-per-view, and he was supposed to have a match with Jay Lethal, and he no-showed the pay-per-view because he missed his flight. And Jay went out there and said that ACH stood for a crackhead. And I guess they still have heat today, even though, like, hey, man, it's wrestling. Like, a work's a work, but who knows if he took that wrong. I know he was, like, pushed and then stop-start pushed in Ring of Honor. So, who knows? But the fact is, people who are out there saying, well, he's just mad because he's not getting the push he thinks he deserves in NXT. It's right. Like, dude, he just won. He just had a push. He had a huge push. So that doesn't ring true to me either. Just to put a capstone on this, today he tweeted out. He didn't tweet out. He posted on Instagram, which is a fairly new account for him. This is long, so bear with me. But he said, my tweets yesterday were completely disrespectful and were unprofessional. I have offended a ton of people and used anger to fuel me. With that being said, I'd like to take this time to state and apologize for not giving a shit about what others think of me. The anger I have inside of me has been built up for years now. Call me what you want, but you'll never, ever be able to call me fake. I've been lied to, used, and often mistreated by others who I viewed as associates. I've tiptoed around, kept quiet, even took some L's when necessary. Emotionally charged up due to the shirt, which triggered past emotions. I'm never going to be sorry for being me, nor will I take back my words. I'm the damn professional wrestler in the world and universe today. His words. My ribs are touching, and I'm tired of waiting. Time to snatch plates from those that have been eating for too long and always get seconds, while guys like myself have to eat crumbs from the floor like an unwanted child. For 4 years, I gave my all to a promotion, only to find out that you could only reach so high just as long as you didn't surpass certain, quote, people. I'm assuming he's talking about Ring of Honor here. I never begged for anything. I never kissed no ass, nor did rub elbows with the right people to get ahead. I hustled, worked hard. I didn't call Hunter every day to get booked in New Japan. Shout out to New Japan. I earned it. He's talking about Hunter, I believe his name is Hunter Johnson, not Triple H, who works for New Japan. He's the booker for New Japan. I've always wanted to be, quote, the guy, and if no one will allow me to be in that spot, I shall blaze my own trail to that spot, rather it be by the approval of others or not. Today I shall continue to go the distance. Today I shall lead moving forward. I'm not sure what that means. Today I shall rise up from my past ashes like a dark phoenix and promote change in this industry. Remember these words, I am the best in the world, and no man or woman will stop me from being honest. Go the distance. Hashtag miles ahead. Hashtag for the culture. So that is the latest statement that he's made about all of this, which unfortunately to me, just looking at it at face value, he starts off by saying the things I said yesterday were disrespectful and unprofessional, but I'm not going to apologize.
Yeah, I apologize, but screw y'all.
I'm
going to do what I do.
I'm going to do what I do. So
again, tact,
yeah,
you know.
So I don't know. This is still very up in the air. It seems to me, especially the tweet that he had about Tupac, where he said, "Oh, Tupac's going to inspire a mind one day. I am that mind." I worry a little bit with that he's getting a little bit high on his own supply, because I feel like he is in a position, especially with that T-shirt, to truly have an effect to change. You know what I mean? Like, now is the time to strike while WWE is a little bit vulnerable to try and affect some sort of positive change. I don't know that everything that he's doing has been positive, and I'm not alone in that feeling. I can't really weigh in on this in that way. But at the same time, that is what it seems like, Nick. And I really hope that someone sits him down and talks to him and says, look, dude, you're in a position to really help. Hashtag for the culture. You're really in a position to help the culture. You can't be going out there and doing things that are counterproductive when you're in this position.
He's getting, it seems like he's getting no counsel, no help, no nothing. And if it's not going to be the leadership of the company, I would have also suggested to go and sit down with some of the locker room leaders like Titus and be like, hey man, sure, how should I handle this?
Or even just, I don't think he's got access to Titus. Maybe, I don't know who he knows in WWE. Like, we don't know. We don't have the facts. We don't know what kind of locker room leaders there are.
I don't know what all the conditions are, but I'm throwing options out there that are way better than, what's actually transpired here.
I mean, I'm thinking about NXT, and I cannot think of a whole lot of people of color that are there besides right now, like Keith Lee. There's, Swerve Scott, Leo Rush. I'm trying to think of who else is there, and it's also kind of a little bit whitewashed on their roster.
Yeah.
So I don't know who he would go to, dude, to be honest with you. But I truly hope that he got someone who's been through this, who's got a level head, Titus, Mark Henry, someone like that, who is a locker room leader who can be like, dude, here's how we proceed with this. Yeah. Here's how we affect positive change. If you're trying to change the carpet, don't burn down the house. So at any rate, very difficult subject to talk about. I hope you guys bear with us on all of that. We'd love to hear your responses as well. I think that there's a lot to be said about this, and we're not really the ones who should be saying a lot about this. So please go to our Facebook discussion group and let us know what you think. Of course, as with all things like this, keep it civil. Think about what you're saying, because this is a really difficult subject, but one that I think needs to be discussed. This is something that can't just stay in the back, in the shadows. This is something that has to be discussed. That's how we all move forward and grow and get better and become better people.
Right.
So,
right, Dog Ziggler.
but yeah, so Nick, that's some heavy stuff. Some heavy stuff. Thank you guys for listening to all of that. Nick, let's lighten up the mood a little bit because there was a very entertaining show on this week. But to talk about that, we need to discuss Monday Night Raw.
So just when I thought I was going to get some wrestling on my wrestling show, I was mistaken. Rusev and Lana held a divorce court with Jerry the King Lawler to close out Monday Night Raw last night.
Yes.
You know, most of the show leading up to this was 50-50. Like, I kind of had a love-hate relationship with this Raw last night. And yeah, and at the end of the day, it's things like this. Like, you could have buried this in the middle of the show, and I think things would have been fine. You know, some other things that happened in the show would have been excellent options to close out Monday Night Raw because it would have made it a lot better. But this, as your closer, going to black, it left me just scratching my head going, why did I even bother?
Wow. You didn't like the... You're the guy who always liked the soap opera in the wrestling, and this is about as like Jerry Springer soap opera as you get. Jerry the King Lawler coming out and having a king's court, which he called possibly a divorce court. Rusev and Lana alone in the ring. Lana told Bobby Lashley to stay backstage. She comes out and they basically get into... We finally find out what the issues were. And Lana talks about how Rusev wanted sex all the time. He was a sex addict. Screams at him, "You're a sex addict." He wanted to put a baby in me. It was going to ruin my modeling career. I'm an Instagram fashion. What are they even called? There's an Instagram fashion influencer. Thank you. I don't know the terms these kids use these days. Yeah, she's an influencer and all this stuff. And then finally ended with, Bobby Lashley told me that you cheated, Rusev. To which he said, "What? You believe Bobby Lashley?" And sure enough, out comes Bobby Lashley, and we get some physicality. Rusev and Lashley go at it. Rusev gets the upper hand. Lana is even just beating Rusev with a kendo stick. He's no-selling it while he beats up Bobby Lashley. He finally turns around. He's taken off his wedding ring and shoved it into Bobby Lashley's mouth at this point. And Lashley gives him a low blow and beats him up, and the show goes to black with Lashley and Lana making out over the fallen body of Rusev. Nick, I have a confession.
What? You enjoyed this, didn't you?
I was entertained by this.
Oh, boy.
I might be coming around on this angle. I still, don't get me wrong, I hated how this angle began, and a lot of the stuff that they began this with, I think because I couldn't see where they were going. And you know me, you're the skeptically optimistic one. I'm pessimistically skeptical. And I was like, oh God, this is going to be the worst thing ever.
Right.
And here's the thing. This was just as trashy as all the rest of it. This is this is trash TV. It's Jerry Springer. But my God, they got the audience into it finally. And you know why? Because Lana and Rusev went out there and grabbed that goddamn brass ring. Lana was excellent. She nailed her line. She nailed her delivery. She nailed the inflection. She nailed going after the audience, going after Rusev, and even getting the lines in there that actually ultimately kind of help Rusev. Like in this kind of angle, oh, you find out he's a sex fiend. Everyone in the audience is going, yeah, my boy Rusev. You know what I mean? And then coming around, Rusev reacting to it very realistically and coming across as being very sympathetic. And ultimately, when Bobby Lashley comes out and Rusev rips open his shirt and these two big hosses start going at it, you start getting engaged as well. You're like, okay, like that is classic trash wrestling 101. And for me, Nick, it actually worked.
Here's what I'll say. Here's what I'll throw in there.
Okay.
Because I agree with you for the most part.
Really? I thought you hated it.
I don't hate it. I hate the Lana and Lashley making out bit. Like everything else is kind of okay.
Why? What's wrong with that?
Because it's a little too tonguey. If I'm being honest, if I'm being completely blunt, there's a little too much action and a little.
What if
too
I
close
told
up.
You that's the point?
I understand. but don't have this close out your show as you're heading to a giant pay-per-view in a couple of days.
Why not? I would rather. Dude, you complained about SmackDown being a giant commercial. Wouldn't you rather have the closeout show for this crown jewel that we're all just kind of rolling our eyes at? Wouldn't you like? Isn't it better
Something
to have
else that
them
I'm
be
rolling my eyes at?
Well, rolling your eyes at less, right? This is something that's going to. We were talking last week about what's going to make you come back and watch the show next week. What happens next, right? And while I'm not to the point yet where I'm going to say I'm invested in the storyline, I can't wait to see what happens next or nothing. This is certainly better than finishing this out with Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair standing in the ring and be like, "Come on down to Crown Jewel, brother, in Saudi Arabia." That's right, come to Saudi Arabia, woo! You know, like this is better than that. If you're going to
had a lot of decent
what I would rather
wrestling
close the show out.
Yeah, we had a lot of decent wrestling matches on this show as well that also contained some sports entertainment that would have been better options to close the show out.
But that's
what I'm saying.
Okay, but here's the other thing. Rusev dropped an S-bomb, and some of this was salacious, to put it mildly. So you're
also saying
it
had to be after 10 p.m. for TV rules or something like that?
Have it on late. Yeah, so the kids aren't going to see it as much.
Yeah, it's a good point.
So that was one part that I thought that was possible.
Sure.
The other thing is, they had a lot of wrestling and a lot of other stuff on the show as well, which for me, I was like, cool, you gave us a smorgasbord. If the whole show had been Rusev, Lana, and Bobby Lashley, I would have said, like, that's too much. Come on, man. One segment only. It was one segment only. Like, it was, I got a little bit of pro wrestling. I got a little bit of sports entertainment. I got a little bit of soap opera. I got a little bit of trash TV. You know, like, I felt like this was a well-rounded Raw.
I think where my frustration lies, and this is very smarky wrestling stuff, is I feel like that they just this isn't the Rusev that I wanted.
Oh God!
Right?
What?
Rusev organically got himself over with Aiden English and the whole Rusev Day thing.
Okay,
and they burned it to the ground,
right?
Just like they're kind of doing with Seth Rollins. But at the same time, because Vince came up with this idea to have Lana in a cheating angle.
Yes.
Now this is what they're going to use to push Rusev. That's the part that I just can't get my head around, and why I have a hard time enjoying what they're putting in front of me right now, because we've already been in this position with Rusev, and we don't trust it anymore.
Well, and here's what I trust about it is if it's Vince's idea, he'll push it. And Rusev got over last night. Let's call a spade a spade. That crowd was firmly behind Rusev, and they were vocal about it. So from that metric, from that standpoint, it's getting Rusev over. I agree with you. Is this the angle I want to be getting Rusev over? Absolutely not. But if this is what we're getting, it's working. So
here's the other thing that logic.
I'm of two minds of it.
Here's the other logic piece of this. Lana didn't want to have sex with Rusev because he's a sex fiend, but at the same time, and to counter that, she's going to go out and have sex with Bobby Lashley?
Nick, first of all, you're getting way too much into hashtag WWE logic here. Part one. Part two, one of the points that she's been making over the last... If you want me to parse the storyline for you here...
No, I don't.
Well, you're going to get it because you asked that question.
God damn it.
Because over the last couple of weeks, one of the things she's been saying, oh, Rusev never took me out to this restaurant. Oh, Bobby Lashley, he's getting me, like, giving massages, and he's, rose petals on the bed. Like, he's romancing her, and that's something she didn't get from Rusev. I'm actually... And I hate to do this because I know I'm not going to get what I think I see, but I think I see where they're going with this storyline, which is they've now lined it up so that we can find out that Lashley lied to Lana about the whole cheating thing, and ultimately they can reconcile and get back together once they settle their differences, and then they'll be back together and they'll be totally over. Great. They've now with this segment, I see where they could go with this for this ultimately to be like a happy Macho Man Miss Elizabeth ending to this, right?
Sure, and I think there's an element of it that they've lost Miz and Maurice, and they've lost Mike and Maria for reasons, and they're missing a power couple on WWE for that mid-card soap opera kind of stuff. Right. And I think that where I agree with you. I see this being teed up as the reunion, the reconciliation, and Rusev and Lana becoming the next power couple.
It could end that way. The other thing that it's also working for Bobby Lashley. Like, he finally feels like just a smarmy dick, but also like a really strong smarmy dick.
Like he can pull Lana.
Right.
That's the thought we're all thinking,
like,
right?
So I'm eating my words for the last few weeks, but I'm coming around on this goddamn angle, as dumb as it is.
God.
As dumb as it is, and as much as I wish it were not part of the programming, if it must be a part of the programming, at least now I understand it, I get it, and I feel like for what it is, it's working. That's a lot of caveats. I understand that. A lot of caveats.
We're going to lose so many listeners with this episode. We opened the show with two middle-aged, cisgendered white males talking about racial issues, and now we're talking about Lana and Lashley and the fact that we like it. Good God. I'm sorry in advance, guys.
I didn't say I liked it. I said I'm coming around on it. And I'm not at the point where I'm like, gee willikers, I can't wait to see what Lana and Rusev get up to this week. Oh, that Lashley. I'm not there yet. Calm down. That being said, this entertained me. God damn it. Also, surprisingly more entertaining than I was ready to give it credit for was the match between Seth Rollins and Eric Rowan, which was a Falls Count Anywhere match. And I felt it was a entertaining match. Lots of going in and out of the ring and backstage, and some good, like, brutal tossing guys into things moments. And Rowan got to show off his strength, and it was more entertaining than I was ready to believe it was going to be. And then they used a tried and true, I believe it's like a 21-year-old finish at this point. But Rock and Mankind once had a Falls Count Anywhere match, and Mankind lowered a forklift onto the old Rock, onto Rocky, and pinned him with that. Thankfully, they did not use the forklift cam on this particular angle. This was just Rowan was down after eating a stomp on a ladder, and Seth got into the forklift and had the forklift driver lower it onto Rowan, and then stood on top of the pallet as Rowan couldn't get up and got the win. The one thing I wonder about this, I'm like, okay,
does
cool,
that make the pallet or the forklift the number one contender for the Universal Championship?
No, because he was standing on top of it. Therefore, since he was on top of the pallet, he is the one on the most top. So, for instance, I guess it could have a possible shot saying, is it co-pinned Rowan? But I don't know. I think that pallet is stuck in St. Louis. I don't know if you can get it a ticket anywhere. But
Gotcha.
At any rate, okay, it was a fun match, satisfying ending. I thought it was a good use of Rowan. They're still showing off that he's powerful. But I had two questions about this, Nick.
Okay.
Are they trying out this ending because they want to see if it would get over and they can then reuse it on Thursday? Do you think they're going to do that? Something like this?
I hope it doesn't become a new Seth Rollins trope thing, that it's his thing that he does. But you know what?
You trap the Fiend under a mountain of some sort of debris.
It's very realistic that this could become another thing that Seth has in his sort of arsenal, where it's just one of the things that he does over and over, like the stomp.
Yeah, well, if that's the case, then I'm going to say this: you can't spell arsenal without arse, because that's terrible.
Yep,
that is just that's ass. And if it does end up on Thursday that the Fiend is buried under a mountain of debris and Seth stands on top of it and gets the pin, I think people are going to be pissed.
Yeah,
just my thought. One more thought on this: do you think this is a good use of Rowan, or is this just one and done, and they're going to misuse him some more? Do you think that this is this going to have any momentum for Rowan?
Well, if what you say was true, he was a fall guy and a guinea pig for this gimmick to see if what you say is,
that's what I'm wondering,
ends up being true. Yeah, Rowan was just being used here, and no, I don't think he's had any prominence since the whole angle with Daniel Bryan. I thought he was a great big man to be paired up with somebody that was a tiny little mouthy son of a bitch that Daniel Bryan was in his heel character.
Bugsy.
I think that was kind of a perfect pairing with those two in a weird, awkward way, but it worked.
Oh, I loved it.
Now that he's struck out on his own again, and we've had happen what happened, it just
happened?
I still
don't wrap my head around what happened or what didn't happen.
Me either.
I don't know.
Hashtag Roman wins.
I'm still waiting to get back onto track of storylines after Crown Jewel is done, so we can get back to some real feuds here. Like the match we had with Kairi Sane and Becky Lynch, which has been coming for a while. At this point, the only people that have pinned Becky Lynch all year are Kairi Sane and Asuka. And here we had a match with Kairi Sane, where Becky ultimately won. She tapped her out with the disarmer. It was a really good match too. Not surprising. They can both work their asses off. But the real story here was, at the beginning of all this, the Kabuki Warriors, not only did Kairi Sane come out no longer dressed like a pirate, but more like a in a Kabuki outfit with the kimono, a little bit closer to Asuka's look, so they look a little bit more like they're on the same page. Pardon the pun. Paige came out with them to say, that's right, I put these two together. Aren't I brilliant? Everyone loves her. And then both Asuka and Kairi try to take her mic away and scream at the audience in Japanese. Paige doesn't like this very much and finally gets in Asuka's face, and Asuka very casually blows a wad of venom all over Paige's face, mists the hell out of her.
The poison mist.
Paige rolls out of the ring. She's blinded. Her eyes are burning. Asuka's kind of staring her down, and then we have the Becky match. That was a brilliant way to get them away from Paige, make them officially 100% heel, because they did that to a beloved babyface.
Yeah.
And not have Paige take a bump.
Yep. Fantastic.
Brilliant.
And the pairing of them with Paige has always seemed a little weird. And they needed to get away from that anyway.
Little patronizing.
Plus, it just kind of legitimizes them too. So I'm all in on what happened here. And frankly, the match between Kairi and Becky Lynch was awesome.
Yeah.
You know, this was really good, and it makes me ask, why can't they just have a singles run?
Well, and
why does there have to be all this mishmash of outside auxiliary stuff going on?
I mean, I've been saying since WrestleMania that Becky's opponent should be Asuka because of the loss at Royal Rumble, and it seems like they're coming around to that, but yet we're making Kairi and Asuka more of a close tag team. They've got a tag match on Wednesday on NXT, so there's that's kind of strange. Also, as far as losing the pirate gimmick for Kairi, I feel awful for her. We're about to have a WrestleMania that's pirate themed, and she's not still a pirate. This poor girl. Come on,
that's just what a waste.
That's just mean. That's just wrestling is so unfair.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that we're getting an Asuka feud with Becky. I'm not sure that's going to work with Kairi. I wouldn't be mad at it if Kairi's kind of roaming on the sidelines, so it makes it more uneven for Becky, so it's more dangerous. But at the same time, I'm also worried a little bit about heel Asuka and face Becky, and this just going back to Mr. Saito and just having this be another foreign heel against the beloved babyface thing. Yeah. I'm a little worried about that. So hopefully, skeptically optimistic. What were we saying?
Yeah, exactly. Hashtag skeptically optimistic.
They can make this a little bit more well-rounded, but while they have Asuka screaming at us in Japanese, I don't know if they're going to make that happen. But we'll see. We'll see. So another great match that we had on the show, and you were talking about the great wrestling that we were having, Ricochet versus Drew McIntyre, and this was a Crown Royal advertisement. You had Hogan and Flair and Jimmy Hart ringside, representing their teams, kind of thing. But luckily, Ricochet and Drew McIntyre have absolutely amazing chemistry. They work incredibly well together because Drew is a big, strong guy and Ricochet's a little flippy guy, and they work so well. And this match just blew this crowd up. They loved this match.
As did I.
And it was back and forth, a lot of near falls. Ricochet powering out, looking like he's gonna, he's a superhero. God, they were pushing him being a superhero in this match.
Just stop. We know you guys.
It was a little much. It was a lot of much.
Off. It's almost getting as bad, but not quite as the big dog.
You can tell like Vince is just back there screaming at these guys, keep saying superhero. It's why it's grating with Cole. Like he knows he's got to push these things so much, and it's making Ricochet less cool. I hate to say, it's not helping him any. And luckily, he's an entertaining enough guy, and this match was entertaining enough, and working with Drew is good enough that I think it overcomes it. But yeah, it's grating, and that's really the only thing I could say about it. But what a great match. The best part about it, though, Nick, was that there was no finish. Because as Ricochet looked like he was about to get the 450 on Drew, he realizes he's about to be attacked, but then eats an RKO out of nowhere that I think will go down in the books as one of the best ones. Because he sold it. I mean, remember when RVD used to sell DDTs and by standing on his head?
Yep.
Ricochet basically, but it was like the most incredible thing because no one else was even close to selling like that. That's what Ricochet did with this RKO. He sold it like on that level of sell where it's so beyond what anyone else is selling it like. It looked, and then he just, his body was just limp. Randy just turned him over, and he was a corpse.
The trick to the RKO, I think we've always said, is that it's about who's receiving it. Yeah. And I can remember throwbacks to both Rusev and Jinder Mahal when his feud with Randy, just terrible, terrible, terrible. They would pull their knees in.
Yes.
It just looked awful. Ricochet's selling has gone from questionable when he first started to, oh my God, amazing. He's one of the best doing it right now. I absolutely love watching him sell wrestling moves.
Well, and it's funny because I don't think people ever had a problem with him selling the move in the moment. It was that he would then just brush it off, and come back
and do
Superman
again
and be fine. Whereas this, he was dead. And they started beating him up after this when he was just dead. So, fantastic, very entertaining. Again, it was just an advertisement for Crown Jewel, and I didn't see any ramifications beyond that. If you want to keep having Drew McIntyre and Ricochet wrestle, I'm never going to complain because they're great together. But unfortunately, that's all this was, it seemed, was an advertisement for Crown Jewel. A very good one. We also had a really good match between AJ Styles and Humberto Carrillo, who now has gone from Seth Rollins to AJ Styles in 2 weeks. Did I tell you my boy was blue chip?
He's doing the title tour right now. So was he going to go for the Intercontinental champ next?
I don't.
We're going to see Humberto Carrillo against Shinsuke Nakamura.
The wild card rule is dead, Nick. You can't do that. He's got to stick to Raw. So now he's had a shot at Seth. He's had a shot at AJ. AJ beat him with the calf crusher. Although Humberto got a lot of offense in early in this match. He got all of his big old moves.
That's why we're having The Fiend on Raw next Monday, right?
I am not even commenting on that. Here's my question here. I think he might settle on a feud with AJ. And I'm just because I'm looking at the card for Crown Jewel, and I think there might be a feud brewing here. And if you work Humberto against AJ, I think that could be a lot of fun.
Those two would put that would be lights out. I would watch the shit out of that.
Yeah. I'm curious to see where they go. Again, we got to get through Halloween and Crown Jewel to really find out where any feuds are going, because right now they're, it's because of the weird way that the Crown Jewel is built, where they don't build anything for it. They don't start doing anything until that pay-per-view cycle, right? They weren't building this show back in August. They didn't start building it till the beginning of October. And that's when you started seeing Tyson Fury come around and, all of this stuff, because Saudi Arabia wants these legit sports stars and they're willing to pay exorbitant amounts of money to get them. So WWE at the last minute's like, oh yeah, we can get you legit sports stars. Let's scramble and get some people. But that unfortunately means that it just derails the rest of their programming. So hopefully they can recover after this freaking show is done, because I want to see where they go with some of this.
Me too. Me too. Fiend and Seth aside, I think that's the only thing that's like an ongoing feud that's going to be at Crown Jewel. Is that fair?
I think there's a couple of things that might go beyond, but we'll discuss that when we get to discussing the actual show itself. Sure. Finally, that was on Hulu. If you saw Hulu, then you also saw the Street Profits come out and cut a promo in the middle of the ring, essentially saying, that's right, we're on Raw. We just want our first match. We want the smoke. They get the whole crowd chanting, we want the smoke. They tried. They're getting there. The audience will get it pretty soon. They're too infectious.
Start chanting it a little bit,
Yeah, it's
half-heartedly so, but still.
Yeah, some of their dialogue is still a little bit cringy, but I think they're doing the best they can with it. And they did come out later after that Humberto Carrillo and AJ match and chased off the OC and stood tall with Humberto. So they're definitely the big old baby faces on Raw. They're trying to make them fan favorites. I like that they're getting a push. I just hope that they can keep it, how shall I put this, reasonable and not make it too ridiculous.
Right.
So I liked what they were doing, at least with them coming out for the save. So yeah, so fingers crossed for the Street Profits. If you did not watch Hulu, then you probably didn't see some of these next matches. Natalya and Charlotte Flair versus the Iconics, because why not? Let's reach into a hat and draw out some names and have a match. And I
want to call something out here, by the way, real quick, because this is on. So for those of you that are watching Total Divas, you're getting to see a side of Natalya where after her father passed away, she seems to be scrambling for something to do. And this
Right.
was leading up to WrestleMania and has seemingly been happening ever since. And that's part of the main storyline that's going on with her hanging out with Ronda Rousey, trying to deal with the grief of her father passing and all of that stuff. So now, all of a sudden, she's finagled her way into a pairing with Charlotte. And somehow the Iconics manifested themselves onto TV for the first time in I don't know how long. And they got beat by yet another seemingly meaningless pairing of Natalia's.
Yeah, Natalya tapped out Billie Kay. Like it wasn't even it was just a
What in
beating.
the hell is going on?
I'm not sure, and this does feel like a little bit of creative burnout, or they're not sure what to do with all these ladies. I could, and this is going to kill you, Nick, if I say this. I might speak this into existence, and you might be very mad at me for saying so. Natalya and Charlotte stay a tag team. It keeps Charlotte out of Becky's hair. It allows them to take the titles off of the Kabuki Warriors, and then Asuka can have a solo match with Becky with Kairi Sane on the side as her heater, as her manager or valet or whatever. So that's one possibility I see here. If they're going to
Charlotte and Natalya is the women's version of Rudolph, basically, is what you're getting at.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great. Fantastic.
I knew you'd love that. I knew that was just going to be your favorite thing ever. So anyway, that's one thought with this. Aside from that, this could have just been like a one-off just to kill some time. We also had Buddy Murphy finally getting on TV versus R-Truth. R-Truth lost the match largely because he got distracted by the 24/7 championship running by on the Singh brothers, chased by everybody, and then he ate a knee and got rolled up for the 1-2, a 3. So at least Buddy Murphy got a win. At least he was on TV. And
so hang on. You're posting videos and you're promoting Buddy Murphy, Ali, Mustafa Ali, I have to call him that again, and Humberto Carrillo as the 3 big up-and-comers, yet you're going to have him deal with R-Truth in the 24/7 title? I mean, am I wrong in thinking that Buddy Murphy is above this?
It seemed like a way to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, and again, it wasn't like they featured it too heavily. This was just a way to say, hey, the 24/7 championship's still around, Buddy Murphy's here, and he wins matches. That's what it felt like to me. I didn't take it too seriously. So
I just felt like Buddy Murphy's he's earned he's earned a spot.
Man, that #wrestling. You haven't earned it until you're given it, and you know how that works.
Yeah.
It's just if you catch the twinkle in Vince's eye one day, he might be gracious enough to give you a push and call you Shorty G. We also had the Viking Raiders destroying a tag team known as the Chicago Cubs, a couple of poor enhancement guys that they nicknamed Anthony Rizzo and Chris Bryant. After what happened with the Cardinals, I thought this was cute. My first reaction was, oh God, we're back in the early 90s. And then I realized, no, this is sports heat. They've been going for sports heat so hard lately. This was just the Viking Raiders squashing a couple of Cubs to get over with the St. Louis crowd. I don't know what they're going to do when they go back to Chicago, but at least for one night, this worked really well. I don't know. I in the notes I said, was this dumb fun or was it dumb fun?
Well, considering St. Louis was in the running in the division, the championship series, and they lost to the Nationals, it would have been smarter to call them the Nationals instead of the Cubs. But I like the name play here. St. Louis has no love lost for Illinois or Chicago, so it works for me.
Interesting note, one of them was actually played by Mike Seidel. Jeez.
Seidel, yeah.
Sasha Banks. Younger brother of Matt Seidel. So, interesting.
Nice.
Also, I have to say that the real Cubs response to this was pretty classic. The actual Cubs franchise tweeted out, "That's okay, WWE. We prefer AEW anyway." Zing. So,
oh my God. You caught me mid-drink of water there, and I almost spit it out.
You should have. That would have been great.
Holy smokes.
Oh, it was great. A couple more things on Raw. AOP they're still talking. They've got those talking promos. This week they talked about how fighting was war is mental as much as it was physical. Great. This is fine. These are decently written promos. We know that they're just kind of like, they're in a holding pattern until they're ready to use them. Honestly, these are fine. They're way better than the Aleister Black promos, which we had another one of. He started off this promo, Nick, saying, "What is the definition of madness? It is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result."
That's the definition of insanity.
But
I see your point.
Because madness and insanity are very different, Nick. Thank you for making that distinction for us.
Right.
I found this to actually be the definition of irony. Because here we are with Aleister Black doing the same thing over and over again and not getting a different result.
Or hypocrisy.
Yeah. Something. I don't know. Hopefully at some point they'll get him, they'll make him stop talking and make him actually do some action.
Yep.
So that was Raw for the week, Nick. It was, I think, compared to SmackDown, it was head and shoulders better. There's a lot of good stuff on this show, a lot of stuff to like. Obviously, bit of a bad taste from the whole Jordan Myles thing, and Crown Jewel coming up. Just a bad taste with the company in general right now, but certainly some quality stuff as far as pro wrestling and sports entertainment is concerned on this particular episode. But that show we were talking about, we got to talk about right now, and that's Crown Jewel, Nick. I think as a protest, you and I are not doing pick'ems for this show. Is that correct? Is that what we decided?
Yes.
We're just going to talk about it existing. We're going to cover what happened at it on our next show. It's coming up on Saturday when you'll be home and we'll be live again on YouTube.
Yes.
So we'll discuss the outcomes of the show, but we will not be doing pick'ems for this show. We're just going to say that this is the lineup right now for the show. Brock Lesnar defending his championship belt against Cain Velasquez. Braun Strowman has a match against Tyson Fury, which I'm sure will be an absolute drizzling shit show, though maybe not as bad as Undertaker and Goldberg. Seth Rollins is defending his Universal Championship against The Fiend in a Falls Count Anywhere match, and WWE has said that the match cannot end in a stoppage. Thanks, WWE.
Yeah.
So glad we defined that.
That's actually how Hell in a Cell matches work, but go ahead.
But okay, now it's a Falls Count Anywhere match with no stoppage.
Right.
Okay, great. We're going to have a Team Hogan versus Team Flair match. Roman Reigns, Rusev, Ricochet, Ali, Mustafa Ali, and Chad Gable. I'm not calling him Shorty G. Versus Hulk versus Team Flair's Randy Orton, King Corbin, Bobby Lashley, Shinsuke Nakamura, and Drew McIntyre. And you've already got some feuds building just in this one, right? Roman Reigns has got a feud coming up with King Corbin, Rusev and Lashley, Ricochet, and looks like Drew McIntyre. And then that's about it. Nakamura is really feuding with Daniel Bryan, it seems like. So I'm not really sure what.
I could see Ali getting involved with that too somehow.
Yeah,
so.
And Randy doesn't really have anything going on either. So Ali,
remember, Ali was the one feuding with Daniel Bryan going back to the pre-Kofi run, which is where Kofi got the opportunity before he got injured. So I could see Ali getting involved with that somehow.
Shinsuke, he's had beef with Shinsuke recently too.
Absolutely.
So we'll see what they do there. AJ Styles will be defending against whoever wins the Battle Royale that they're having on the pre-show. That Battle Royale is a 20-person Battle Royale, which is Apollo Crews, Buddy Murphy, Andrade Cien Almas, Drake Maverick, Eric Young, Luke Harper, Cedric Alexander, Heath Slater, No Way Jose, Sunil Singh, who's the 24/7 champ, Mojo Rawley, Eric Rowan, R-Truth, Sin Cara, Brian Kendrick, Titus O'Neil, Tony Nese, Akira Tozawa, Shelton Benjamin, and my pick to win it because of what happened on Raw, Humberto Carrillo.
Oh, totally.
Right? Because then
I was waiting for you to say his name so I could say, yeah, that one.
That one. That's why I waited. We've got Mansoor versus Cesaro. Wonder what's going to happen in that match. Mansoor, of course, being the hometown boy.
Oh, Cesaro.
We've got the World Cup Tag Team Turmoil match to determine who's the best tag team in the world. That's the New Day, which, of course, will be Kofi and Big E because Xavier has a really nasty Achilles tendon injury. Hopefully his career is not done. The New Day, the Viking Raiders, Heavy Machinery, the Lucha House Party, Zack Ryder, Kurt Hawkins, the Revival, the OC, Rudolph, and the B Team. I'm not going to say who I think is going to win that because we're not doing pick'ems, but that is going to be Crown Jewel. On paper, might be a couple of good matches, but also on paper, nothing's really going to change unless Lesnar and Cain Velasquez change titles, and I don't think that's going to happen there. AJ Styles ain't losing his U.S. title to whoever wins that tournament. So, yeah, another big house show, basically all it is.
Great.
So
can't wait. Riveting content. Can you hear the excitement in my robotic voice?
You're so excited, Nick. You're so excited.
I am the opposite of whatever excited is.
Luckily, there's other wrestling to watch this week, Nick. Luckily, we've got NXT and AEW coming up tomorrow night, Wednesday night to watch. We've also got NWA Power, which just came out today. Because it just came out today, I don't want to give any spoilers out, but I will tell you what matches were on there. You had a Josephus versus Trevor Murdoch match, the Dawsons versus Kingston and Homicide, Marty Bell, third week in a row she's had a match versus Ashley Vox. I will tell you to look out for Thunder Rosa. She is debuting this week. Just a hint. Aaron Stevens versus Ricky Starks, which from what I'm just going to say, good match. And then a six-man tag. I won't tell you why they made the six-man tag, but I will say it's a really cool stipulation. Nick Aldis, Colt Cabana, and Mr. Anderson versus James Storm, Thomas Latimer, and Royce Isaacs. Yes, that is your NWA champion and two other guys facing off with their North American champion and two other guys. So, yes, the stipulation for that is actually pretty awesome. How they get there is pretty awesome. So check out NWA Power. It's free on YouTube. It's an hour. And their theme song is Dawkins Into the Fire. What more do you want?
Yeah,
What?
that's all. And, the return to 80s studio wrestling. Yes, please. Put it in my eye holes.
So if you're looking for an alternative to Crown Jewel, there's plenty out there, Nick.
Yeah. Well, Ian, that's it for our show this week, but we're not done just yet. We've got just enough time for our other news lightning round. Beep, 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 beep.
Yes, sir. Friday Night SmackDown ratings. Oh, my God. They were on FS1, and their ratings dropped to 880,000. They went under 1 million. The lowest by a large margin, the lowest rated SmackDown of all time. That's lower than AEW is on TNT.
And NXT, I believe. That's about NXT numbers for
It's
it.
a little more than NXT numbers is right now, but it's not by much. Here's the thing. Yes, they were on FS1, not on Fox. Yes, they were it's World Series time, and they were up against the World
It
Series.
was up against the same time
Fine.
slot as the Game 2 of the World Series
Fine.
with 50 million people watching it.
Exactly. I think it was 9 million the World Series pulled. But
I'm exaggerating. Everybody in the world's watching the World Series right now.
yeah, but they still got crushed, and their audience did not follow them. That's really, I think, the lesson here is that their audience didn't follow them. If you were a quote unquote hardcore fan, you watched the show. They did announce the hell out of the fact they were on FS1. You would know that. If you were a casual viewer, you might not have known, and you might have seen that SmackDown wasn't on and just assumed, it's the World Series. I don't have to watch SmackDown anyway. That's, I think, the real telling thing is people didn't feel it was worth going to FS1 or worth trying to find. A lot of people. Me
as a tech guy, even someone who's fairly knowledgeable around TVs and cable and the internet and all that kind of stuff, I even had difficulty finding FS1 on my cable subscription.
Right.
It wasn't until I scrolled all the way down to channel 400 on Spectrum to be able to find it. So I'm with you.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of a knowledge gap, or you can find to say you're on FS1, but nobody knows what actual channel that is.
Right. That's a good point. Raw also hurting in the ratings. It only did a 2.13 average. It was 13th overall on the night. That's the third worst Raw of the year after Christmas and New Year's Eve. Eek, that's barely better than their June 10th show, which was up against the NBA Finals. And then
that one was bad.
I don't remember what was going on September 9th. That was a really bad show, too. But yeah, so Raw was way down. It was a 9% loss week to week. And then there was no competition. There was nothing up against it. And their third hour, they dropped by a seventh of their audience. It dropped way down to a 1.93 in the third hour. It's funny because some online people were saying, the Rusev Lana segment, it's killing them. Well, it may be killing TV viewers, but that thing it's as of today, in 24 hours, it's done almost 4 million views on YouTube. So
in less than 24 hours.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's actually a fact.
And frankly, it was the very last thing on the show. It was the last 20 minutes of the show.
Right. So I don't know if you can say that that's why the audience dropped off. Yeah. So anyone who's saying that Rusev and Lana is killing them right now, I don't think is looking at all the numbers. So just going to throw that out there. I would love to be the doomsayer saying this is the stuff that's killing your show, but it's not. It's driving tons of numbers online. So there is that. We mentioned Mike Siddall earlier. Matt Siddall, his brother, is back as Evan Bourne in Evolve. And we know now who he'll be facing at Evolve 139 and 140. He'll be facing Leon Ruff the first night and AR Fox the second night. They're currently the tag team champs, respectively. So that'll be interesting. I'm curious if they're planning on having Evan come back permanently?
Yeah, I want to know what the plans are for Evan Bourne here.
What's going on here?
Yeah, I don't really know what's going on, so I can't wait to see what happens on the show.
I'll tell you right now, it is a much better environment for him to be in WWE now than it was the last time he was here. Much friendlier. A lot of more guys kind of on his level, his speed. David,
flippy shit.
Yes, right. There apparently is some trouble in paradise. David Starr, who has been very outspoken, well, always, but especially this week, has been talking about disgruntlement backstage at NXT. Apparently, there's a lot of people that are saying that there is some morale issues in WWE as a whole, NXT in particular. David Starr claims he has recently spoken to NXT talent that has recently been pulled up to TV, and they were pulled aside by management and said they would not be getting their TV raises. He also says that, also we have a scoop from Casey Michaels of SC Sirens, who's actually been a pretty reliable source. He broke a couple of things, like the Kylie Ray news, and so he's been fairly reliable. But he says there's a lot of unhappy people in NXT, lots of empty promises coming from management. That seems to be the through line for people that are expressing to him that there's a problem. And there's so many people there now. Apparently, they're running out of lockers for people to use.
Wow.
So looks like, at least if we're to believe this stuff, that WWE snatching up all this indie talent might come back to bite them in the butt. Seth Rollins was on SEScoops.com, and I read this article, and I had a hard time, not going to lie, figuring out what was a work and what was a shoot. But he did say that he wants more respect from fans. He feels like he deserves more respect from fans. And when it comes to Bray Wyatt, he says he's cool, man. He's fresh and he's new, and he's got this cult following, and that just puts a chip on my shoulder. I don't get the respect I deserve because there's this new flavor of ice cream. So there was, again, Seth, I think, towing the line here between pissing off some of his fans and going out and trying to say that he deserves, he has earned the respect and he should get it. So, yeah, I'm not quite sure entirely what to make of this. I mean, if you read the whole article on SEScoops.com, it does sound a little bit kayfabe-y, but then there's certain parts where I don't know. It didn't.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Seth, again.
Seth needs to stop doing press. Please.
That's kind of what I took away from it. Is someone's got to really talk to him about what image he's trying to get out here, whether it's in kayfabe or not. So, Marty the Moth from Lucha Underground has expressed some very keen interest in being on AEW. He says that he is working on tweaking his image, working on tweaking his character. He really, really, really wants to be on AEW. He's working hard to do it. I found that fascinating because considering how many people from Lucha Underground went to Impact, and they seem like their door is a little bit more open right now, and I think Marty would fit in pretty well there. That being said, love Marty the Moth. Would love to see him on AEW, and he's worked with some guys on that show as well. So fingers crossed.
Twitch stream. Follow him on Twitch.
Yeah, fingers crossed for Marty. He's got a great Twitch. Good character on there. The WWE on Fox Twitter account also got in hot water this week because they tweeted out, essentially, when people were saying, what about some more representation? After all this went down with Jordan Myles, what about some more representation on Raw? And they tweeted out, what do you think Kairi Sane is? That tweet was very quickly taken down.
Oh, boy.
And they actually went out and apologized the way you're supposed to apologize, where they said it was a bad tweet on our end. We shouldn't have even replied, or we could have used other examples like the Street Profits, R-Truth, etc., but we just should have stayed quiet. Mistakes happen, and this was on us. So, and here's the thing, while they're not wrong, if people are talking about people of color, Kairi Sane counts as one, but I think they missed the point of the tweet prior, and that's why it was a bad tweet on their part. But good on them. That, by the way, that Twitter account has been gold for 99% of the time. If you follow the WWE, I think it's the guys who used to do Wendy's. No, I'm serious. They're freaking gold. But this was definitely a misstep. I think they were trying to be funny, and it was a dumb joke that didn't come through. But props to them.
That's not a thread to be funny on.
Yeah. I've seen so many people try to be funny on this whole Jordan Myles thing, and it's just, you can't. There's just nope, don't.
Walk away.
So, and they did.
Just let it scroll past your feed.
That being said, everyone should look at their apology here. That's how you write an apology. Is like, yeah, we see what we did wrong. Sorry about that. Detail what you did wrong so you can show that you know what you did wrong, and fully admit that you were wrong. That was a good apology. Finally, in the news, MLW hires Chris DeJoseph as executive producer. That's right. The guy who created Lucha Underground is now working as an executive producer on MLW. No official word on what that means for Lucha Underground, Nick, but if we weren't ready to put a stake in it before, I think this might be the final move here.
I think the lawsuit over how they were treating talent was that stake that put them in the ground.
That didn't help. That was quite a few shovels of dirt right there on the grave of Lucha Underground. But yeah, the fact that Chris Joseph, if he's a great, like, honestly, I've loved the writing on Lucha Underground. A lot of stuff that they did on that show was great. If he goes to MLW with the talent they have there right now and how up and coming they are, that could be a huge move. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is basically our way of saying keep an eye on MLW. They could be up to some big stuff in the near future. And that's the news, Nick.
Thank you very much, Sir Ian Dangerous. Well, thank you all for joining us on this episode. And yeah, we'll crown jewels this week, and we kind of have to struggle through that. It is what it is, depending on how you feel about it. But, you kind of know how we feel about it at this point.
Yeah.
Also, happy Halloween, everybody.
Indeed.
It's that time of year.
It's the most
wonderful time of the year.
I love it. I've been watching so many horror movies, Nick, and doing my horror podcast, Horrorpalooza, also available on orbitaljigsaw.com. But yeah, lots and lots of horror movies, having so much fun. I have a pumpkin beer chilling in the fridge right now. Happy Halloween to everybody. It is the best time of the year. I'm not ready for it to be done, Nick. I'm not ready.
No. Well, it's not here yet. We got a couple days yet. It's almost there.
But it's too close. Can we go back to the beginning of October?
No, I don't want to relive this last month, please. It's in the books. We survived.
I've had a great time this past month.
What an absolute wonderful month this has been, if we reflect on that for just a second.
Yeah.
I mean, we had the launch of AEW Dynamite. We had the launch of NWA Power. We had the launch of AEW Dark. We had the move of SmackDown to Friday nights on Fox. NXT went live on USA.
Yeah.
Just endless amounts of milestones happened this month, and it's been a pretty damn incredible month across the board for all wrestling fans. So be thankful for a moment. All controversies aside, in the moment, just sit back and look at the scope of the month that we've just gone through and the amount of wrestling that we have as fans have gotten to enjoy.
I'm coming around on the Rusev Lana angle. Like, it's been a crazy month.
Cats and dogs living together, mass hysteria.
Yep,
right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, guys, come and join us over on Facebook. Just search for Busted Wide Open. Like our page and send us a join request to get into the Busted Wide Open discussion group that is the hub of our operation. And there you can find a link to our Discord server and community where we have live chats for all pay-per-views as well as all weekly live shows that you can find there. So come and join us in Discord. Let's keep all the spoilers out of the discussion group and keep all your live chats over there. You can also find us on YouTube, live streaming every Tuesday at 8 p.m. and every Saturday at 3 p.m., except for this week because I'm in Vegas. But be subscribed to that channel and make sure you hit that notification bell so you get notifications anytime we schedule new live events or put up some new content, which we're going to be doing a lot of in the very near future. You can also follow us on Instagram and Twitter at BWO Podcast, as well as our over at patreon.com/BWO. Thank you very much to all of our patrons that continue to support this show every single month. Your money is not wasted. We absolutely would not be where we are without all of you. So thank you very much for all of you. You are the fuel that keeps this machine called Busted Wide Open running all the time. That's patreon.com/BWO. If you'd like to get in on some of those listener questions for our new patron mailbag series that we do also on Saturdays, an exclusive show where we just answer all of your questions, bonus episodes every month, all kinds of good stuff over there. My name is Nick Howell. You can find me on Twitter at Data Center Dude.
And I am Sir Ian Dangerous. You can find me on Twitter at Sir Ian Dangerous.
I got to be quiet again, so I'm going to go, by God!
Will somebody stop the damn match?
This show is part of the Orbital Jigsaw Network. For more episodes, subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher Radio. For details and show notes from each episode, check us out, orbitaljigsaw.com.